Okay, good morning. Last full day of this retreat. And it's my turn to give a talk this morning. And according to our schedule, I like to say a few things about wisdom, which is basically this awakening. Early on this week, I was asked, what are we getting? When we do this practice, where are we going? What do we achieve with this? What's the point? And it's a really honest, good question. The first thing, the goal is awakening. There's a goal for what we're doing. There is like an end point. And the Buddha defined this as the highest happiness. It's very simple. It's absolute the highest happiness and absolute the highest freedom from suffering. And this is something we achieve as a human being or a living being. And it's based on our own experience. And you get the result of this while we're living. And then of course this has consequences when our human body passes away and there is a continuation somehow. And basically, the more we can develop spiritually as a human being, the better the continuation will be. And if you take this training all the way, which we call a full awakening, then basically your mind will stop creating suffering. You still have a body which will be painful and there will still be suffering, but you stop creating suffering in your mind. There's one place where they're saying that you will end up having like a mind which is shining like a sun. Just shining, no more ill will, no more anger, no more hate, no more fear, no more cravings which create unwholesome mental states. That is what the Buddha is promising if we take this path all the way. To reach this stage of awakening, or to be able to go as far as we can, the key for this is to develop wisdom. It is something we are supposed to understand. There are so many people who ask me, what is wisdom? Like, is it the type of wisdom which you get at university? Like you can study, for example, the Kant's categorical imperative, and you can read these books, and you can discuss it, and you can write a paper, and you can get your head kind of around it, and say, yeah, now I understand this. And you can apply that method or that science for something in life. It's basically just a mental thing. It's like an understanding, and it doesn't change anything in you. But the wisdom we're talking about in Buddhism changes something in you, and it changes something in your mind. It's not the wisdom if it doesn't improve your happiness level. And what we're aiming for is this reduction of greed, hate, and delusion, which is the cause for all our sufferings. So wisdom, when it's Buddhist wisdom, is about understanding something which changes our mind into something more beautiful. It's not just an intellectual understanding of something. Same thing you can study and understand like Schrödinger's cat. Same thing, you can go and read, you can discuss, but it doesn't change your life in any way. But this practice we do and the contemplation we do based on those experiences does something to us. It's like small insights we have, small pieces of wisdom changes a little bit of our mind. And big insights like levels of awakening changes our mind a lot. Those attainments, if we can use that word, they are really, really big events. It's not something you just understand, yeah, 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay. It's not that type of realization. This is an event which has an incredible, powerful impact on your mind. And these are events which last for days. And after these events, then you know yourself that something has changed. So that is wisdom. It's something we understand about our own nature. Why does it create suffering, and how does this suffering disappear? And the result of that is happiness or freedom. And then I'm going to tell you, when are you going to get fully enlightened? I found this text as a quite young monastic in Australia. It's just 4 paragraphs, or 5. Friends, there are these 3 urgent tasks of a farmer. What 3? Firstly, the farmer swiftly yet thoroughly plows the fields and swiftly yet thoroughly harrows it. So this farmer is preparing the ground. 2, next he swiftly sows seed. 3, and then he swiftly irrigates and drains this field, so adds water. These are the 3 urgent tasks of a farmer. But this farmer has no psychic power or spiritual might by which he can command, let my crops start growing today. Let them mature tomorrow, and let them bear grain the day after tomorrow. But with the change of seasons, there comes a time when the crops grow, mature, and bear grain. So too, friends, there are these 3 urgent tasks of a meditator. What 3? The undertaking of the training of the higher virtuous behavior, like ethics, moral behavior. The undertaking of the training in the higher mind, and higher mind here is defined as like deep meditation, jhana. And the undertaking of the training of the higher wisdom, which is this contemplation and trying to understand and developing wisdom. These are the 3 urgent tasks of a meditator. But this meditator has no psychic power or no spiritual might by which he could command, let my mind reach full awakening today, or tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow. Rather, as this meditator trains in the higher virtuous behavior, higher mind and higher wisdom, so ethics and deep meditation and developing wisdom, there comes an occasion when his mind reaches full awakening. Therefore, friends, you should train yourself thus. We should have a keen desire to undertake the training in the higher virtuous behavior, the training in the higher mind, and the training in higher wisdom. It is in this way you should train yourself. So we are like compared to plants. We need nurture, and then we will grow according to our own nature. So you can't control it. Just put in the effort and it will happen. So that's describing when you are going to get there, according to the Buddha. So what I like to do now, which was the main purpose of this talk actually, is that I like to present to you this process, the same process in meditation of breathing, the 4 focuses of mindfulness, and the 7 factors of awakening. I want to describe that process with the purpose of describing them, not like what to do or how to do it or some kind of way of developing wisdom, but how you experience it. And I'm going to use my own levels here. I'm not going to use Ajahn Brahm's kind of steps or the Buddha steps, because my focus is describing what you will experience. And the first couple of steps I will describe, many of you during this retreat so far have experienced. And I've spoken to you, so you know this. And many of you have already deeper experiences in meditation. When I describe this, the first clear step, which is easy to recognize, is that you sit in meditation and your mind is still. So basically there's no thinking. You can sit there and you just sit there and it's so nice and you're so free of this internal rambling, never-ending nagging of the mind. And you get a break. And it's so nice to have that freedom for a little while. And many of you here have been doing this, also on this retreat. That's like the first real recognizable step in this process. The next step is when you have this peace, this stillness inside, combined with beautiful feelings, joy. That is what Venabu and myself have really tried to emphasize this retreat. Get this joy, rapture, inspiration, kindness arising in you. And that it is a feeling. It is something you perceive. It's not like an intellectual thought. It is something which is perceivable, and it also changes your mind in a certain way. Your mind becomes more soft and delightful, just nice inside. I've spoken to some of you. You have such a nice time because you have this beautiful feeling inside of you. That's like, in my world, step 2. You're still and you have this beautiful mind, and it's such a nice thing to sit there. And that's also quite easy to recognize. This stage just continues, and it deepens and it deepens and it deepens. Basically you get more and more still, and your emotions get stronger and stronger. And what happens is that, just as I told about how you can get sucked into a movie. If you see this really interesting movie, just you get completely sucked into these movies, and everything else around you, just it doesn't register on your mind. You're so into this movie. And the same thing happened with meditation. You have found this inner movie, this inner entertainment, which is better than seeing your favorite movie. And you just go in and in and in and into this inner cave we have in our mind. And what is gradually happening is that our perception of our senses is slowly fading away. It is as this everything going on outside your body, or outside when you sit meditating, it's just getting further and further and further away. You're so inside, because that's where you find the peace and the joy. And at one point, and everybody experiences this, you basically withdraw completely from your body. And everybody in this room here have done that at least 15,000 times. Absolutely everybody here. We do that every day at night. We go to sleep and we let go of our body. And the same thing we do in meditation. We do it very slowly, but we are 100% aware, conscious, really there, seeing what's going on, really happy and bright. And at one point you're just inside yourself. And this is a stage which is really, really easy to recognize, because you cannot hear anything from your physical ears. If somebody cannot touches your hand while you're meditating, you can't feel it. But your body is sitting there, absolutely happy, just as when you're sleeping. The body manages itself perfectly, just as during daytime and during meditation and during sleeping. So there's no need to be worried about this body while you're meditating and getting deeper. And it's such a relief to basically roll out of your body and for a little while be free from your body. Mentally, you will perceive that just an enormous relief of burden. It's such a nice thing to have a break from your body and just be inside and rest. It is as you just throwing off a backpack of 30 kilos. That is like what I call like a third stage. And many of you will experience this. And you probably will be a bit afraid in the beginning. But there is no need for that. When you go this far, you're coming to this stage which is really funny. and I have read a bit of this also from these seniors in this Thai forest tradition. And especially there's one monastic called Tate, Ajahn Tate. That's one of Ajahn Brahm's favorite teachers in Thailand. And he has actually been speaking about this stage. And he said that if you can get there, that's a really good sign that you're going the right direction. Now you're getting closer, really close to deep meditation and jhana. You're not there yet, but if you can do that, that's an extremely good sign. And Ajahn Brahm liked to call that stage like a creative stage. And that's so true. Because what is happening is that if you get into this stage while you're not all that still, and you bring with you a little bit of your restlessness and your playfulness and your wanting and your whatever it is. And in this stage, you don't have a body to play around with. And what your mind then starts to do is to play around with your mind. And your mind starts creating all kind of funny things. It can create landscapes, all kind of visions and colors and sounds and music and all kind of really, really fun things. And I remember when I got to this stage in meditation and I started to play around there, I was really like, what am I going mad now, or what? I'm seeing this landscape. And I went to Ajahn Brahm like, what is this? And he just said, have fun. He told me to spend a lot of time doing this. Go in there and just mess around and have fun doing this until you're just tired of the whole thing. And I did that. You have no idea how many funny things I have created in my mind. It is like being, because your mind creates both landscapes, like a setting, like a surrounding. Like here we are in this room, okay, and there's a roof and we have all these things. Your mind will create that for you. And in addition, very often you end up creating a mind-made body, a manomaya kaya, that's the Pali word, which is a kind of fine material body. And you can mess around in this landscape or this scenery with a body which works the same as a human being. You have like hands and kind of a head and feet, and you're moving around and you're learning what this fine material type of body is and how it works and what you can do with that. I just want to say one example for myself. And one of the first times I was actually in there and I was using this body, when I came back afterwards, I was wondering, what is this body? Is it kind of alive? Does it have like a heart? Is there like a physical heart, like pumping blood? So I decided next time I'm leaving my body and going this is that stage, I wanted to take the pulse of my hand. And I did that. I remember suddenly one day I just got really deep and I got into that stage and suddenly I was there with this body. And I remember I pulled my right hand up so I could see it, my eye, and I took my other hand and just, okay, is there, do this body has some kind of heart. But unfortunately I couldn't feel anything. And that's probably because my mind didn't create that. But it doesn't matter. And there's so many weird things which can arise. And it's 99% just fun and games. And the reality of this stage is as real as we are doing now, here. We sit here and we take this to be kind of real. And the same kind of reality level is in that stage. So this is a very, very clear stage, which everybody will recognize. But everybody will perceive it differently. It depends on what playfulness and what your mind is up to at that day. One day I met this guy from France. There was a guy from Paris who came to visit us at Bodhinyana. And we had a lot of fun. And we were talking and meeting in the evening, talking about spirituality. And when I meditated afterwards, I was suddenly in Paris. And I was just walking through some streets in Paris and listening to this. You know, this is at least what we think. In the back streets of Paris, there's these people playing this, thing, and this cute coffee streets, whatever. I was just walking and listening to this music. And it arose because I met this guy from Paris. So I was kind of conditioned by this nice guy from Paris. And it made my mind create this fantasy, which I was playing around in. And it was really fun. It was the first time I could listen to music. You're not supposed to do that as a monastic. Okay, enough. That's one very, very, very clear stage. And don't be afraid if you go there or when you go there. The next stage is what you can read in the commentarial literature, which is called Upachara Samadhi. And it's translated as like threshold meditation, or like doorstep meditation, meaning that you are on the doorstep to jhana. You're so close to what the Buddha wanted us to do. And in this stage, there's no more playing around. There's no more. You're extremely still, and you're extremely focused, and the energy level, the purity level here is really high. And you're so still and so focused on something. It can be a mental perception of breathing, or it can just be the feeling. And this is also where, for those who have read about Ajahn Brahm, he called it like for a nimitta arising. They do arise earlier, but at this stage, nimittas become stable. And they're there with you all the time. Because now your mind is still enough to keep them there and not disturb them and allow them to grow. And these nimittas, which you perceive as some kind of light, maybe like they're kind of round or somehow kind of roundish, which has light into it, which can have different colors. It can be white or yellow or blue, whatever. It's basically you who choose this, or your mind chooses this color. You're deep inside, far away from your body, extremely mindful and aware, really happy, really bright, and you have these visitors coming, these nimittas. And they come into that stage, and again that stage is very clear to recognize. And it's an extremely powerful state of mind. You're so close to deep meditation. So everybody who's been there a few times know that, okay, now I'm that stage, and you know also this is just before deep meditation. At this stage you really have to continue calming down, even more, calming down, and making this, this bliss or this rapture, this joy, and make it even more strong. And as you do that, these lights or nimittas, they grow. And they will be more and more dominating in what you see or what you perceive. You don't see anything with your physical eye anymore. Everything you see is just with the mind's eye. It's basically consciousness or awareness, seeing mental phenomena. And then there is a transition from that stage into jhana. And it can be that this light, it just grows and grows and grows and just goes all around you. And then you're in this stage. Or you can have this perception that you're falling into this thing here. But at least you're going in. And that is jhana. And if you, for example, listen to the teaching of Ajahn Brahm, when he kind of describes these states, this is a stage where there is absolutely no body, neither physical nor fine material. So there's no eyes, there's no hands, neither are there this duality. Because there is the duality when there is like something who sees something and something is seen. So there's like two things. But when there is no I anymore, then there is just knowing. So this thing who sees inside of you is just knowing, and it just knows in all direction. And it's a stage which is just extremely uplifting, unbelievable, out of your mind, of your wildest dreams. Stage of bliss, stillness, happiness, mindfulness, brightness. And the Buddha used the word jhana for this. And I really like that because jhana has this meaning of this state, but it also means to burn. So jhana or jayanti, it also means to burn. And what this jhana does is to temporarily burn your defilements. So when you come out of this stage, for a while you have a very, very special mind. And that mind, this jhana has burned up all your cravings and all your ill will and all your fear and worries and concerns. So you have this beautiful, free mind who can do anything. It's not a mind which is just tossed and turned and moved around by our emotions. You know, when we sit now, outside deep meditation, and we want to contemplate something, we have this emotion in the back of our mind. We get afraid. We want this. We dislike that. And that will form our contemplation. And we will land on a conclusion which is bent by our emotions. But when we contemplate after deep meditation, we have a mind which is free from those emotions for a while, a few hours, if you're lucky a day, or something like that. And that is like a period where you can really contemplate your own nature without your greed, hate and delusion and all your lack of, all the emotion which is bending your contemplation process into seeing what you want to see or not seeing what you don't want to see. You see truly according to nature. And there is where you see true nature of our own existence. And that's the main purpose of jhana. It's not the bliss. It's not this just being free from your body for a while. It's that it does something to your mind so that afterwards you have this window of opportunity to develop wisdom, which is true. And that's when you can get these stages of awakening, if you do contemplate what the Buddha is asking you to contemplate. Basically, when you come out of these deep states, you're supposed to start to look at these 5 components of our existence. Our body, our perceptions, our feelings, our thoughts and will and consciousness. And we are to try to see if those elements of us, whether they are impermanent, whether they are suffering or they're happiness, or if they are self, or non-self. And if you do that, if you do this process, if you do either what I'm describing now, or you're doing mindfulness of breathing, or you do the 4 satipatthanas, you try to do these 7 factors of awakening, and you go through this process, and you start to contemplate these elements of ourself according to the theory of the Buddha, that is where there can be big and huge insights which changes our mind. So please, there's this enormous, beautiful training open for everybody. The only thing you get is more and more happiness and more freedom. And you're just expanding your experience of yourself and your own nature, and you will end up just creating an inner beautiful garden, and it's so nice to be in there, the more beautiful it is.